Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion of the world. Now he finds himself alongside Michael Schumacher as top in the record books. But for Lewis Hamilton, the checker flag will come in the nick of time for a 7th British Grand Prix victory.
Alright, so today's video we're going to take a look at how I filmed this intro sequence using these Amaran T4c light tubes from Aputure. Kind of how we set them up, how we used them. These tube lights are really cool. You have lots of different things you can use them for. One of the things that we're using for in this specific video is actually just using them for product showcase in this video. Today we're going to go through how we set up the light tubes, how we set up these shots, and some of the things that we use to make the shots a little bit cooler. And then also we'll kind of talk about some of the other gear that went along to shooting this video itself. So the one thing that actually inspired this video is that last week Mercedes actually unveiled their new car for Formula 1. And during that video, they actually had a lot of these cool turquoise lights on the car itself. And they had a lot of strobing light tubes behind it, going from kind of turquoise to a white. So I kind of thought maybe it'd be fun to make a product commercial for their shoe for their Mercedes race team and do it with the similar lights that they kind of unveiled their car with. So that's kind of what inspired this video. And the cool thing is I actually have these tube lights so I can kind of get a similar look to what they had in that unveiling video. So the first thing we did when we set up the shot is I had to make sure I got that turquoise color right. So what we did is we actually opened up Sidus Link, and inside the app under HSI, if you go to Picker, it brings up kind of like a photo on your camera, and this way you could actually scan the color that you're trying to match. So I took the back of the shoe here, which is this cool turquoise color, and we actually just brought up the phone to it, and you scan the color. And once you scan the color, the light will actually turn to that color, which is really cool. So now you actually have the color match of the color that we're trying to match on the shoe, which makes this really simple to get right. You can't eyeball it if you think it's a little off, and you can obviously change it to whatever color you want, but if you're trying to get a very specific color, inside the Sidus app, that picker function is really cool to have, because that way it kind of takes out some of the guesswork in getting your color right. So for my secondary light tube, I wanted to have more of a 5600 Kelvin look, or something that I could use an effect that's on the system itself. So we actually put that on a stand back there, and I put it first at 56K so that I could get a nice color for a backlight. But I did, during the video, switch it to paparazzi and flicker, so I had different flickers going on throughout the video. That just kind of gave it a different look, a different ambience, so which is really cool. They do have effects, just like Sidus Link on all the other Aputure lights. The effect menu is in here, so you can do paparazzi, lightning, fire, TV, a whole bunch of different cool effects, which is really handy if you're trying to do kind of creative film work. So like I said, that one's mounted on a stand. I put it just above frame, just so it was out of frame. I do have a black background behind that. And then on the table itself, we did put a black acrylic sheet. Mine's 2 foot by 2 foot. So what that's going to do is it's going to give you that nice mirrored finish so that you can get that cool reflection. Plus it's going to just look really cool underneath the shoe itself. And then I just literally set the light tube directly behind that, sitting on top of that acrylic, just because I wanted that reflection of the acrylic as well. And it's going to give a really cool backlighting effect with that teal color. One thing I kind of wish you could do, and maybe this is something I can do in the app, but I wish I could get that light to sometimes flicker as well. But I did notice that once you're on a colored light, that it doesn't work with the effects. So if you guys know a way to actually change that, do let me comment down below. So basically that's our setup. We got that set up. And then throughout the different shots, we just use different lenses, different kind of B-roll techniques. I was using the RS3 gimbal here to get some of the smooth shots. We're actually using this Rove Pro slider with the ZV-1 camera was shot all those macro shots. So I have that little wide angle lens that you can add on to the ZV-1, and if you take half of it apart, it becomes a macro lens. So then I was able to get up right next to the shoe, just right next to it, and get those really cool macro shots, since I actually don't have a macro lens here. So those really cool macro shots, that was actually the ZV-1, believe that or not. So mainly I was just trying to get different angles, different close-ups, different detail shots, different wide shots. Then I went into that Mercedes video and actually tried to match the position of the car and the position of the shoe, so that we could try to do a morphing effect in post, going from the car to the shoe, to kind of give that kind of fun back and forth between what the shoe represents compared to the car. thought it was kind of a cool idea. We'll see how that actually works out once I have it edited in post. And then the rest of it's just going to be all editing, finding those cool sound effects, finding all those cool voiceovers from the F1 races themselves. And just kind of matching up the shots until you got a cool little product video. So one of the other shots that I showcased a little bit was the kind of revealing light technique. And all that really is I turned off all my key lights. I had just the turquoise one in the background. And then I held the light tube above the product, and I just turned it and twisted it as I went over the top of it to kind of give it that revealing of light. Because the light tube kind of expels 180 degrees of light, basically all I had to do is just kind of twist it to allow the light to not be on the shoe, and then as I twist it, the light goes over the shoe, and it kind of gives this cool little effect that you can kind of put together. You'll see that a lot in like watch commercials and kind of product videos itself. It's a well-used technique that they use a lot. So once again, those light tubes really came in handy for that. For that, I probably could have used the 2-foot version if I had it, but the 4-foot version worked just fine. I just had to kind of hold it out further around the product so it had room to go over it. So all the shots that you saw, kind of the cool flickering in the background, on those shots we were using this key light behind me. This is the Amaran 200D with the Lightbox SE softbox. This is a good softbox for that light. It's pretty small. If you're not planning on moving around a lot and packing down your equipment, the SE is a really good option because it is about half the weight and it's also about half the price. So size-wise, they're pretty similar though. But this one stays in my studio all the time, so I just leave this here. Not worried about ever taking it down. But if you guys do plan on having different shoots where you have to bring your equipment to there, I would recommend getting the Light Dome 2, which is a foldable unit. That one's really nice. Like I said, though, it's about twice the price. So one of the other effects that we did before we started shooting is I actually brought in a fog machine so I could let it fog up the room, kind of dissipate a little bit so it looks more of like a mist. And then we also did use this mist filter from Freewell. This just kind of brought out those highlights in the light tubes a lot more, kind of bloom them out because I wanted those to be like really bright and intense behind the shoe, especially when we were creating those like silhouette shots. So this mist filter I got from Freewell. This is part of their 5-in-1 like VND set. You don't have to use this one. There's plenty of different like mist or Cinebloom filters out there. So to film the rest of this video, I was using the Sony a7S III sitting on the Ronin RS3 gimbal. So the reason I was really wanting to use this gimbal is because I really wanted a steady shot, because there was a couple times where I was actually zoomed into about 70 on this lens itself. So I was standing back a little ways so that I could get more of kind of a compression in the background, make the lights look bigger than they were in the background. But when you're standing back 5 feet, zoomed in all the way, it gets to be a little bit more shaky. So that's why I was using the gimbal itself. So for the lenses that we use, primarily I was using the Sigma 24-70. For a couple shots, I was using the Sony Batis 85. The only thing with that lens is you can't get within 3 feet of your subject, so otherwise you lose focus. But I did use that lens for a couple shots itself. And then there was a couple shots where I was using the Tamron 35-150. What I liked about this is I could zoom into 150 at that f2.8 and it could still have good lighting on the actual shoe itself without having to like jump up my ISO. What I also did like about this Tamron lens is that at 150 I could actually be a little bit closer to the actual product as far as minimum focus without losing focus, which is something my like other lenses weren't able to do, because I had to be a little further away. So I was getting a little bit more zoomed in close-up shots with this. And also, like I said before, I was using the Sony ZV-1 with the Ulanzi wide-angle lens, and also I adapted that Cinebloom filter to it as well. And those were getting to like really close-up macro shots, which looked great, I thought, on that camera. But anyways, that's how I filmed this video using these Amaran light tubes. If you guys have any other questions on these light tubes, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. If you'd like to see a more detailed product review of these lights themselves, also leave me a comment down below that you want to see that, and we'll film that as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below. If you guys want to follow along to other videos like this one, other gear reviews, product reviews, or just kind of tutorials itself, hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot if you guys join this channel. And as always, you guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Later.
Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion